Good morning, lovelies! A couple of weeks ago, I announced that my first debut full-length novel has been picked up by a publisher, and I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for all of your well wishes and congratulations. I mean, seriously, it just made my day. We are still nitpicking the revisions, and at that stage we're like, I'll say, all right, I'm done, all the edits is fine, it's perfect, and they'll send it over to them and they'll be like, nope, we caught 20 more errors, and then they'll send it back to me. I'm like, ah, shit. So I'll fix them all, and then I'll turn them all back to them, and then they'll be like, oh, we found some more, and we're just going back. I don't expect this thing until 2022, okay? But enough about that. You guys did not click on that video for that. You clicked on this because I am assuming you're an author who is either struggling to finish their own first draft of their novel, or you're brand new to writing and you're just, haven't even started writing yet, just kind of testing the waters. You want to see, all right, how much of my sanity do I have to sacrifice in order to write a book? All of it. You need to sacrifice all of it. We are all crazy here, and that's fine. Today I share my tips on how to push through that writer's block and finish your first draft of your novel, be it science fiction or fantasy, a memoir, or dinosaur erotica. Tip number 1, understand that your first draft will be shit. It's gonna be bad, guys, okay? Especially if this is your first time writing any type of story. I mean, writing is a skill. You get better at it the more you do it. But even if this is your 20th novel, the first draft is gonna be bad. In the wise words of Ernest Hemingway, the first draft of anything is shit. My first draft was shit. Your first draft is gonna be shit. The first draft of your favorite novel, whatever it is, whatever genre it is, whatever the writer is, it was shit. And that's okay. Right now, you're not trying to make a masterpiece. You're not even really trying to make anything coherent yet. You're just trying to get words on the page. You're trying to get your idea to paper. It's the equivalent of a potter throwing some of that clay on the wheel, all right? It's not gonna look anything like a vase or whatever they're making. They just need to put something on that wheel. That's what you're doing. Number 2, write an outline first. If you're new to writing and you have not yet figured out whether you're a plotter or a pantser, that is, if you're someone who plans and outlines the story well in advance of writing, or someone who figures out the plot as they go along, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you give outlines a try first. This will make the first draft, if not shitty, at least a little more coherent and structured. It also helps prevent you from getting stuck or writing yourself into a corner, because you've already thought out the plot and most of the major plot holes, and you know where you're going next with every writing session. Even if you're more of a pantser than a plotter, I encourage you to at least do like a bare bones outline of your novel, as in, where's the main character starting from, what's the catalyst, what's the midpoint, what's the lowest point, and what's the climax. 5 points, that's it. And or just do a little bare bones outline of the next chapter or the next scene, so that way, again, you don't get stuck. And if you go off script and end up completely ditching your outline and writing something different or rewriting it halfway through writing your first draft, that is exactly what I do. So no judgment, no shame, it happens. It's more of a parachute than anything else. All right, tip number 3, understand that momentum is everything. Again, you're not trying to write something coherent here or anything that makes sense yet. That's for revisions. You're just trying to write. It's hard getting in the zone. And once you're off, you don't want to have to stop or slow down because you got caught on one little detail. The biggest thing that slows me down is descriptions and occasional segues. So half the time, I skip those entirely. I'm in the zone and I want to get to the fun stuff, the plot stuff, the dialogue. Descriptions, segues, that's future me's problem. But if you do get stuck because the detail is very important, or you gotta figure out what this object is or whatever, put the offending detail or scene in brackets so you can get back to it later. So for example, the hero escaped the near-death experience by, brackets, doing something clever. End bracket, move on. Or, my magic teacher Dumbledore took the, bracket, important MacGuffin, and put it in his bag. You can worry about what those brackets actually say later. Number 4, resist the urge to edit your incomplete first draft. Unless you're a weirdo like my mom.
I'll read what I wrote the day before and make edits and changes, and then I'll try and get a few pages.
You edit while you write?
I do edit while I write.
What?
Obsessively. So by the time, I have to do that.
But that's okay if you are. We love you anyway. The edits and revisions are for when you critically analyze what you've written and you determine what has to get cut, what stays, what needs to change, etc. And what you need is emotional distance to be able to judge all of that properly. And you don't really get that when you're in the middle of writing a first draft. The rough draft is honestly the most emotional, and it's when you're having the most fun. You don't want that rational, analytical side of your brain getting in the way of that. Worse, editing as you go along can kill off your all-important momentum. So let's say you get a thought in your brain halfway through writing your first draft that, oh shit, I need to go back and change like the entire intro or first act of this story because I just thought of a thing, or like there's this big gaping plot hole 2 chapters ago that I should fix. No, open up a second blank document and put those ideas in there. And then keep writing your rough draft. Save that document for when you start your revisions because you've got a checklist right there and you'll be able to see exactly what you need to do and go from there. And you do those revisions after you finish the story. Number 5, figure out your creative time. Most writers have a specific time of day when we're at our creative peak. Mornings are the traditional answer to when is your creative time for some reason. I am a night owl. I get my best work done after the sun has set. But I mean, afternoons do also work too. Experiment a little, figure out what works best for you and try to harness that creative time. Now, obviously, you can't do that all the time. A lot of us have shit like work schedules, school, needing to actually sleep a decent amount of time so we're not zombified in the morning. This is one of those things where you do it when you can, but if you can't, don't beat yourself up over it. If you can't harness your exact perfect creative time, just pick a time where you have time to write. Number 6, get rid of distractions. Everyone gets distracted or stimulated by different things. Some people cannot concentrate on anything if they have social media as an option. Others are fine with scrolling in the background. Some people need near complete silence to work and get in that zone. And others, that drives us crazy and we need something like classical music playing in the background, or even just the gentle chaos of a bar or coffee shop. You know those hours-long YouTube videos of, Bach classical or Mozart classical music that you can, put on and listen to? One of those is always running in my apartment, all right? I need that. So that's my stimulus, but one of my biggest distractions is to-do lists. Specifically, it's when I have a mile-long to-do list that's hanging over me like the sword of Damocles for as soon as I finish writing. So instead of writing first, I'll do as many of those to-do list items as I possibly can, so that kind of frees up my brain space and I'm not constantly thinking, oh, I really need to do this, I need to do that, I need to go grocery shopping, I need to do my chores, I need to do YouTube, I need to do social media. I'm not thinking about that, I'm just thinking about the story. If you have, say, a chaotic household with kids, put the babysitter or your co-parent in charge for an hour or so, and then, stake out a quiet corner of the house to work, or leave the house entirely and go to a cafe. If you are constantly distracted by social media notifications, turn that shit off. If you need music to tame your chronic anxiety enough that you can even concentrate on writing, invest in a good pair of headphones. Do whatever you gotta do to clear out your distractions. Number 7, make time to write. This should go without saying, and yet, you would be amazed at how many people claim to be writers, and yet they have never, not once, actually set aside the time to write. It's all, oh, I just have so much other stuff going on, or, oh, I just don't have the time to write a novel. Bitch, you make time! Grace is given to those on hiatus due to health reasons, or mental health reasons, or family, or whatever else is going on, but at some point, You have to sit down and actually write. It does not have to be every day, the way some people say you must write every single day. That's a lie, but it does have to happen. As much as I would love to be in a place where my writing and my YouTubing are my sole sources of income that's enough to pay my rent and my groceries and my little fun stuff on the side, I'm just not there in my career yet. Which means I need to work part-time at a deli. That actually pays the bills. Now it is part-time, but that still means 8 or even 10-hour days. And you can bet your ass I don't write those days. I come home, I eat dinner, I veg out on the couch to watch a little bit of TV or YouTube videos, and then I go to bed. You don't have to write every single day. Even if you don't have a super demanding job or family, all right? Sometimes you need a break. But you do need to write. You should strive to write at least once a week, preferably more. Put it in your calendar if you have to. Tell your friends and family that you are off limits during that time and just write. Personal story, when my mother was on deadline, she is a New York Times bestselling author, she would tell me and my brother in no uncertain terms that she was not to be bothered unless one of the 3 B's happened. Burns, blood, or barf. Unless one of those 3 things was happening, we left her alone and we went to dad. Number 8, establish the habit. Be it daily, thrice weekly, or every other Saturday. Whatever time you figured out works best for you back in 7 and 8, you write during that time, you establish that habit. And establishing that habit is important because it allows you to push through those days when you're not feeling motivated or inspired to write. I'll tell you a little secret. Most professional writers, we don't feel inspired every time we write, but we push through those days anyway because we gotta get those words on the page. Again, the first draft will be shit, so just vomit out those words and put them on the page so you can deal with it and clean it up later. Number 9, set a word goal per session. Now this I do not personally do, but this tip comes to you from one of my patrons who I was discussing this video and the tips for writing a rough draft on the Discord server. It is accessible to all patrons on my Patreon page, link down below. Anyway, we were talking about this and my patron said that he finds it very helpful to set a word count goal every time he sits down to write. Typically that word goal will be about 1,500. Stephen King in his book On Writing suggests doing something similar, saying that a daily word goal of 1,000 words is pretty easy and achievable to do. And most of the time, he's right. Once you've gotten to the point where you're regularly cranking out 1,000 words per session or per day, see if you get up the ante. Go up to 1,500 words, 2,000 words, maybe even 3,000 words if you're really on fire. I personally don't do word count. I go by section, either scene or chapter as dictated by Scrivener. There's no affiliate link. I'm not being paid or sponsored or whatever to say that Scrivener is honestly the best money that I have invested in my writing career. And number 10, set a deadline. Again, I do not do this, but other people find it very helpful. They will set a deadline for a certain word count or for when the entire rough draft must be done. There's a reason NaNoWriMo is so popular. That December 1st deadline sets a fire under your ass. Now this can be a personal deadline, something that you set for yourself, or something that you ask someone else to hold you accountable to. Friends, family, the internet, if you already have an audience. It's a good practice for when you get literary agents and editors who give you actual deadlines with actual consequences if you miss them. And bonus tip number 11, when you finish, celebrate. Because holy shit, you finished the first draft of your first novel. Chill, relax, go out for a nice dinner. You have earned it. And you're gonna need that high for when you start revisions. And when you are ready for those revisions, you can check out this older video I did that details my own personal revision process. Just to clarify, you do not send your first draft to literary agents or editors. You have to revise that thing multiple times. That's all I've got. Please share your tips on finishing your first draft in the comments. I will see you next time. Bye, lovelies.